Right. Hello. So I a couple of things here. Firstly, I'm hoping you can kind of see and hear this. Secondly, elephant in the room. I've got this walking pad now, so this is my first time I'm experiencing a meeting, whether I can walk and talk at the same time. If this is an absolute car crash, after about 6 minutes, you'll see me suddenly stop and I'll be stood still. We're just going to give this a go. So I'm here with Claire, my colleague. Thank you very much for giving up your time to come here. I know it is the end of term. Everyone's absolutely wiped out by now. So I'll do my best to make this as useful as possible. In terms of the format, I'm going to chat for a bit, probably for about half an hour in total. And then the rest of the session is just over to you if you want to fire any questions. Claire's going to be monitoring the chat throughout this session. So if you've got any questions and you want to just bang them down in the chat, Claire will either get back to you straight away on the chat, or she'll flag it for me to discuss in the Q&A bit at the end, if that's okay. Final thing to say is this is on Zoom. I am not good on Zoom at all, so there'll be some really awkward pauses whilst I'm trying to change tab and all that kind of thing. So just stick with us and we'll muddle through this together. So here's what I want to talk to you about this afternoon. I want to do three main things. So I want to give you a very basic overview of what you have committed to next year in terms of the randomized controlled trial. I'll get you excited about that and talk about the basics of setting quizzes on Eedi, what it looks like from the kids' perspective, talk about the AI aspect to it, and then what the results look like your end. Then we'll do the exciting bit, which is the pedagogy power-up, where I'm going to use what we've learned from working with loads of schools over the years and the previous randomized control trial to share with you 5 pedagogical moves you can make in your classroom that'll probably, if all goes well, absolutely ramp up the effectiveness of the Eedi work that you do on your students' outcome. Just a heads up, if you haven't got it ready now, if you've got a pen and paper or like a mini whiteboard or something for that, because we're going to do a little bit of writing for that, so you'll need to do that. So just get yourself ready for that. And then, as I said, I'll then shut up, probably catch my breath after this flipping walking pad, and then you can fire questions at me left, right, and centre. Me and Claire will do our best to answer them all. Okay, so that is the plan of attack. And once again, thank you very much for giving up your time. What I'll get my other colleague Harriet to do at the end of this session is she'll send you a video, so you've got like a much clearer guide of how to go through all this. And if you've got any questions, you can email them in at any stage. So let's just go right back to basics. When I first set up diagnosticquestions.com, oh God, about 10, 15 years ago now, everything was based on a multiple choice diagnostic question. And that's still at the absolute heart of Eedi. We strongly believe in the power of diagnostic questions to allow you to diagnose the specific nature of misconceptions your kids may have. So we're not so much interested in the percent of questions kids get right. What we are interested in is if they get a question wrong, which answer they choose, because that's going to determine it's going to indicate what misconception they have, which is going to set up this bespoke support that we're going to give them. I'm going to talk about how the tuition and the support feeds in from that a little bit later on. But diagnostic questions are at the heart of everything we do. So what have you, perhaps without knowing, signed up to? So this is going to be one of the largest randomized controlled trials ever done, really, into students' learning in mathematics. So all your Key Stage 3 students, your Year 7s, your Year 8s, and your Year 9s will all complete 3 assessments over the course of the year. There's no workload implications for you here. They're doing them in a computer room. It's marked automatically. You don't have to worry about that. We'll even send you the results. A lot of schools are using these as their Year 7 baseline assessment and so on. So you do the baseline in September. You do the midline in Feb, I think it is, and then the end line in June. And these are external assessments through STAR Assessment. So they give us a sense of where your kids are at the start, what progress they make, and so on. Then comes the big twist. So Claire, you're good at knowing this. Do we know this now? Has this been sent out, or is this going to be sent out in terms of which year groups were involved?
Yeah, so I was on a in-person school visit yesterday, and they've had an email from either Harriet or Chelsea telling them which year groups are treatment and control.
Perfect.
So everyone should know that.
Amazing. So you should know this already. So some of your year groups will be in the Eedi group, and some of your year groups will be in the control group, and it'll be 2 in one and 1 in the other. If you're in the Eedi group, let's say it's your year sevens and year nines are in the Eedi group, your commitment is to set one quiz per week to those kids in the Eedi group. If you're in the control group, you just crack on business as usual, whether you're using Sparks, MathsWatch, whatever you're using. The only rule is you cannot set them Eedi. You can't use the Eedi platform to set them work. Now, a couple of little clarifying questions here. If you want to keep going with your other platforms with the Eedi group, you can. So you can keep doing Sparks and then set Eedi on top if you want to. We don't necessarily recommend it. It might be a bit too much for your kids, but that's completely up to you. It's your decision to make, as long as you're setting one quiz per week. And the control group, if you want to use like static diagnostic questions in class for discussions, that's fine. You just can't set them the quizzes and get all the support on Eedi. Hope that all makes sense. Right, this is the bit where it's going to start going wrong. So I'm going to try a live demo. So the first issue is going to be when I try and stop sharing and crack open a tab. So Claire, get ready for this when this goes wrong. So share. Oh God, right, where's that? Here it comes. Right, this is bad. Here we go, PowerPoint. Sorry, everybody. I've literally no idea where this is, you know. Let me give this a click. Honestly, if anyone's tried to use Zoom recently, I've never seen it as bad as it is now. Claire, I genuinely don't think I'm going to be able to find out where my flipping screen's gone here. Where do you see? Right, I'm just going to... Oh, no, I can't share. It's flipping confidential info. Probably can't share that. What's it, Evernote? Right, try this. See what this is. So I'm going to share this. Claire, what are you seeing there?
That's your Claude.
Claude, what's it say on it? So that I can find out what tab I'm on.
Building a PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, no idea where that is. That's not the right one, honestly. All right, let me try one more. Here we go. Let's try this. This will work. Right, I'll share my second desktop. Sorry, everybody. So if I now come out of that, and if I go to Eedi, tell me, Claire, you're seeing Eedi.com there.
Yeah, perfect.
Eedi Labs. Yeah. All right,
yeah.
We're up and running, everybody. So you find Eedi, you log into Eedi, we'll sort out all the usernames and all that kind of thing, and you log yourselves in, and you get to this screen. So this is the absolute basics of what you can do on Eedi. So the best place to go to kick things off is to plan, and then to go to set work. Now, we map to all the big name schemes of work, but if you want my advice, I would always search for quizzes just using the search, the find a topic, the search box there. Just because you may find that for some of your classes, particularly if you set, that actually a year 7 quiz is better than a year 8 quiz for a certain class, or maybe a year 9 quiz is better than a year 8 quiz, and so on. So we'd always recommend searching. So let's imagine that you have just taught your kids area of a triangle. And we want to see if we've got any quizzes on area of a triangle. So let's give that a search, and we see we've got a quiz here. So a few things about this. The first thing to point out is that all of our quizzes are exactly 5 questions long, and each quiz consists of 5 multiple choice diagnostic questions, as you can see here. And so that'll always be the same. If you want to the other thing to say at this point is we show you exactly what questions your kids will be given. We don't want any surprises or anything like that. So you can see exactly what your kids will be given, so you can know whether that quiz is appropriate to your kids' needs. Now, we don't actually permit you to change questions in and out, but we've got enough different quizzes that we're confident you'll always find one that'll match your needs. So let's take a deeper look at this quiz. If we look at this question, you'll see this is quite a nice question here. It's not just your standard procedural question. It's checking whether kids can identify which lengths are needed in order to calculate the area of that particular triangle. And also you get this lovely thing on the right-hand side where you get the data. You get all the data from all the kids who've ever answered this question. And you can see some kids go for A, some kids go for B, but overwhelmingly this question is answered correctly with students going for C here. But you get all the reasons for the misconceptions. Let me show you another one. This is my favorite question on this quiz. If we go to this question here, question 4, you'll see here that this question is an absolute car crash for the kids. So far more kids get this question wrong than get this question right. It's a really good test of understanding. It makes sure that kids just aren't following automatic algorithms. They're actually thinking hard about what lengths they need and so on and so forth. So you get a really good sense of what type of questions the kids are going to be set. But here's another great thing. I know I sound a bit biased here, but if you scroll down on any question, you get a load of free resources that are aligned to the skill that the question assesses. So you get a load of worked example videos that me and the team have recorded over the years. Now, you can do whatever you want with these. Lots of teachers use these for professional development. If you've got less experienced teachers in the team, you can show them these videos and perhaps discuss them in departmental meetings. You can use these for cover work. If teachers are off, you can give them these videos to play. Do whatever you want with them. We also provide fluency practice questions. If you know about my work on variation theory, we have very intelligently varied questions, and we have problem-solving questions, and we have explain the mistake resources. So again, you can use these however you want. You can use these to supplement your classwork. You can use these for stretch and challenge for your kids. These resources do come into the flow, and we'll talk about those a little bit later on when we talk about the student view. But all those resources are available to you, and we have a bespoke set of resources for each question within a quiz. So let's imagine you're thinking to yourself, this is a brilliant quiz. I need to set this to my kids. Dead easy. Pick your class, pick your start date, pick your end date, click assign, and you're good to go. Or you can assign to multiple classes if you want, if somebody wants to take responsibility for that and so on. Well, whatever you want, we keep that flexible. So let's imagine that you have assigned a quiz to your kids and you're happy with that. The next question is, what does this look like from a kid's point of view? And for that, you'll be pleased to know, I'm going to have to stop sharing the screen and try and find my flipping PowerPoint again. So here we go. Let's give that a click. I'm a bit more confident this time. Yeah, I reckon I've nailed this. Right, Claire, ready for that? I reckon that's come up there. Let's do a live demo, yeah? You seeing that?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Right, so what does the kid see? So this is all changed. So this is hot off the press, this. So the first thing to point out is when the kids log in, and they can do this on mobile phone, they can do this on tablet, they can do this on laptop, wherever they want. We keep everything simple, clean and simple, no flipping fancy GIFs or any of that nonsense. It's just, here's a question, and then we present the kids the choices, A, B, C, or D, or however many choices they are. Now, what's really important here is, depending on what answer the kid gives, determines what happens next. So let's imagine the kid absolutely smashes their way through this quiz. They get this question right, they get the next question right, they get the next question right. If a child gets between 4 and 5 questions right in a quiz, at the end of it, we serve them up some stretch and challenge material, something from lower down that page that you've seen, some problem solving, some intelligent practice, and so on. So we ensure that your highest attaining kids, or the kids who are really strong on a particular topic, they've got something meaty to go at. It's not just like a 30-second homework or anything like that. But let's imagine your kids are struggling. So let's imagine a child here picks the wrong answer to this question. Let's say they pick answer A. Now, because our questions have been designed by all our expert human tutors, we have baked in or tagged each wrong answer with the misconception that it reveals. So if a child picks A, they get given some different support versus a child who may have picked a different wrong answer. And this is where our AI tutor kicks in. Now, you'll have had an email about this, but I just wanted to try and explain it as best I can in my own words, because it's a bit controversial, but it's also a bit exciting as well. So let me try and explain what's going on here. So the first thing to say is, well, before we go anywhere near that, this is super safe. We have got humans overseeing these messages. There's nothing dodgy going to be happening. This isn't like flipping ChatGPT, kids going mental on it. We're going to be really closed system, really controlled, really make sure that your kids have a very safe and positive experience. That's the first thing I want to emphasize. But pedagogically, it's going to be super strong as well. So the support is going to be based on the answers that they give. It's not just going to be generic support. That's really, really important. We're going to make sure that it's not just, this is how you do it. It's going to be Socratic. So it's going to be asking the kids, building their knowledge, trying to figure out where those gaps are, weaving it in, just like an expert human teacher or tutor would do. the support that they give is going to be baked in with checks for understanding. It's not going to say things like, does that make sense, or any of that nonsense. It's going to keep asking them little questions to make sure that they're following everything that's happening so far. And crucially, it's going to be built on evidence, not just guesswork. We've spent ages, Claire in particular, has spent ages designing these prompts and support that the tutors, the AI tutors, are going to be given to learn all that we've learned from our decades of teaching experience and the hundreds of millions of student answers that we've got to try and produce as good an experience for the kids as possible. So kids will experience this part of the flow if they struggle on a question. So it's like they struggle on a question, the AI tutor kicks in, gets them back on track, and then we check whether that intervention has worked by giving them a similar multiple choice question with no support to see if they can answer that correctly. And I'll show you how that's all displayed in the results in a moment's time. So what I'm going to do there is I'm just going to pause for two reasons. One, so I can figure out how to change screen, but also to give you an opportunity with the person next to you just to discuss, is that how you thought this AI part of it would work? Do you have any concerns, anything that excites you about it? And again, feel free to bang any questions down in the chat and either Claire will answer it direct or I will. So I'll just give you 1 minute just to discuss that with your colleagues, and then I'll show you exactly what the results look like from this particular quiz. Okay, your minute starts now. Okay, and as I said, there'll be opportunities to dig in deeper into the wonderful world of AI tutors and stuff a little bit later if you want to. So let's hop back into Eedi. So fingers crossed, you can see my screen there where we've got the setting work. Let's imagine you've set that quiz, your kids have answered it, and now you want to see what the results look like. So here we need to hop into the check section. And when we go into the check section, you'll see all the quizzes that you've set, and you'll get a quick sense of the proportion of kids who've completed them and so on. But if we click into a quiz, let's go for this order negative numbers. This is how we present the results, and we thought really hard about this. So the thing we're least interested in is the proportion of questions kids have got correct. What we're more interested in is what's happened with those questions that they've got wrong. So a green tick means they've nailed that first question, smashed it out the park. A red cross means they've still got a misconception. So they got the question wrong, they had some AI tuition, and then when we tested them again, they still got it wrong. So think of red crosses as misconceptions that remain unresolved. They're best dealt with in class, and I'm going to talk to you in the next section about the best ways to do that. Purple crosses are really interesting. Purple crosses are kids struggled at first, they had the intervention, and then they tried a similar question again and they got that question right. So I think of purple crosses as in the moment, you've got enough evidence to say that misconception has been resolved. Might not have been fixed long term, but in the moment, Eedi stepped in and it's offered an effective response to the kid, which the kid has understood. So if you want to dig deeper into any of these questions, you can do so. You can click on any of these questions. You can see what each of the kids did on that. But to be honest with you, this is the most useful view. And what I always recommend to teachers is, from this view, see if you can find the 2 worst answered questions. Which are the ones that you think kids have struggled with and that you're going to benefit from giving some whole class feedback to? And as I say, I'm going to talk about what that feedback's going to look like in a second. So in a nutshell, that's what there is. You've got to find a quiz that's appropriate for your kids and set it. The kids then work their way through the quiz, being given support when they need it and challenge when they need it. And then you get to analyze the results super, super fast. And that's going to dictate what your next step is in the classroom when we talk about what that looks like when you do the whole class feedback. And that's Eedi in a nutshell. So once again, I'm going to pause there just for 1 minute, let you think about that flow, finding the quizzes, kids working through it, then viewing the results. And then I'm going to share with you 5 evidence-based, superpowered techniques, which are going to mean your kids get the very most out of the Eedi platform. So 1 minute, over to you guys. Just have a little chat, little reflection, and then we'll start to do some pedagogy power-ups. Okay, right. So here's how this is going to work. Hopefully you've got yourself a piece of paper or a mini whiteboard or a tablet or something like that. And what I'd like you to do, please, is on that piece of paper or tablet or mini whiteboard, just knock yourself up a set of axes and just split them into quadrants, if that's okay. Just give you a few seconds just to do that. Doesn't have to be massive or anything like this. You're just going to have to fit 5 numbers into onto that set of axes. So it doesn't have to be huge. Okay, let's bang some labels on the axes if that's okay. So on the y-axis, we're going to call this likely impact on learning. Likely impact on learning. And then I always apologize for this because the x-axis is a bit of a mouthful, but I've gone for how closely this matches with what I currently do. Not catchy at all, but if you can be bothered to write that, that'd be great. How closely this matches with what I currently do. Just give you a few more seconds. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. I'm going to go through 5 ideas and I'm going to ask you independently. And if you can avoid sharing this with your colleagues, that'd be great. So a bit of like covering up going on here. I'm going to ask you to put each of the numbers, I'll number each of these 5, each of the numbers somewhere on this grid where it fits for you. So some ideas will be towards the right. There'll be ideas that you're already doing and they're working. They're having a positive impact on your kids' learning. So you put them in the top right. And these ideas, you want to be thinking to yourself, can you do them more? They're already working. You're already doing them. Let's double down on them. Let's just try and squeeze a bit more. Can we do them more times per lesson? Can we do them in more classes? Now, some ideas, you'll be doing them to the right, but for whatever reason, they're not quite having that same impact on learning. So they'll be bottom right. Question for these ideas is, can you do them better? Can you tweak those ideas in a certain way to make them have more effect? Some ideas we talk about, you'll be thinking that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. You're not doing them. They're not having an effect. Question here is why? What is it? What is it about that idea? Does it not sit right with you? Do you not think it'll work with your kids? Would it not work with the culture of your school? Does it not fit in with your philosophy as a teacher? What is the reason? And then finally, some ideas we talk about might be top left. You're not doing them, but perhaps having heard me talk about them or shared with what's happened with other schools, you think, you know what, there's something in there. So you want to try and embed them, but you're going to need to change. What are you going to need to change to make that idea work? How are you going to change the idea? How are you going to change your practice? How are you going to change your kids' habits? They're the hard ones. Okay. So I'm going to go through an idea. Take me about a minute. Then I'm going to ask you to put the number of the idea on this grid where it currently fits for you as a practitioner. Be honest with yourself and hide it from your colleague. And then at the end of it, when you've got all 5 ideas, I'm going to ask you to put your grid together with you and your colleague and just have a look and compare and look for similarities and differences. Okay, so here we go. Idea number 1. This is a biggie. This is a biggie. So we did a previous randomized control trial into using Eedi. And at the end of it, what we looked at is all the kids took a baseline, all the kids took an end line. And we looked at the kids who'd made the most progress, the kids who'd made 4 months of extra maths progress. And we looked at what their teachers were doing on Eedi that the teachers of the kids who didn't make as much progress were not doing. And the thing that outshone was the teachers of the kids who made the most progress were setting one quiz every single week without fail, setting it on the same day each week. It was due in on the same day each week, went through it in class on the same day each week, got into a habit, got into a routine. And it's that regularity that pumps up the dosage that means those kids benefit from it more. And if you read the randomized control trial, I'm not one to be slagging anyone off here, but we compared this to kids who were doing Sparks, doing Maths Watch. They were all in the control group, and the kids who were doing Eedi once a week, every week, were absolutely smashing it out of the park. Now, you can do this by setting quizzes in advance, go as far in advance as you want. But what I would always recommend is you do this yourself once per week. So you get into the habit. So here's a good flow, for example. Monday night, you set the homework. You get into that rhythm. Tuesday, you tell the kids your homework's set. Thursday, the homework's due in. Friday, you go through it in class or whatever. But it's just predictable. It's the same thing every single day. And that means the kids get into the rhythm, you get into the rhythm, and the evidence suggests your kids will absolutely fly from the start of the year to the end of the year. So here's my question for you. If you get your grids out, where are you going to put number one? So how close at the moment is that to what you're currently doing? How much have you got a rhythm and a routine for kids either doing homework or doing regular low stakes assessment in class? And how important do you think that regularity is in terms of developing that routine and its impact on kids' learning? So can you stick number one for where that currently is for you now, if that's okay? And remember, don't show the person next to you. Give you 5 seconds on that. Okay, right. Idea number 2. So I talked about discussing wrong answers in class, worst answer questions in class. Here's the best way to do this that we've found from working with hundreds of schools over the years. So you find from the dashboard the worst 1 or 2 answered questions. 2, I think, works best, but 1 is absolutely fine. So let's say you find the worst answered question. We can see here it's question 5. What you do the day after your homework's been due, you find that worst answer question, you copy it onto a PowerPoint slide, you bang it up at the start of your lesson, and you ask your kids 3 questions. Question 1, what's the right answer and why? Kids can do this on the mini whiteboards, do it in their books, do it with their partner, doesn't matter. Question 2, choose one of the wrong answers and explain why a student might think it's right. And then question 3, change the question to make one of the wrong answers the right answer. Now, this exercise takes no more than 5 minutes. Kids do it independently, kids do it in pairs. You sample a few kids, talk through the answers. That's all it needs to be. But this does 2 things. Firstly, it addresses misconceptions and draws them out into the open, as well as allowing kids to practice mathematical communication, reasoning, collaboration, and so on. So you get an in-class benefit. But the second thing it does is it conveys to kids that homework matters, that it's not just set and forget. You're actually taking homework, things that they're doing out of class, and it's feeding into class. So kids start to take it seriously. So you start to get into this virtuous cycle. So I'm a big, big proponent of discussing worst answer questions in class, and we found this to be the most effective way to do it. So where does that fit for you? How close is that to something you're currently doing? How important do you think that is for kids' learning? Can you stick number 2 wherever it fits for you on your grid? I'll give you 10 seconds, keep it to yourself. Okay, right. Flying here. Number 3, the controversial one. Let's go for this. So a year ago, I wrote a post saying, is maths homework dead? And this was based on the fact that even then, even a year ago, kids were just taking photos of paper-based homework or Sparks homework or any homework, taking a photo, banging it into the free version of ChatGPT, and we're getting perfect answers. every single time. That problem's just got worse and worse and worse. Every school I visit, every teacher I talk to says, yeah, I know kids are cheating. I know kids are doing homework on AI, but not my kids, or not loads of my kids. They're all doing it. They're all doing it. They've all done it, and they'll all find ways. There's no way to stop it. You literally nothing you can do. Kids will get around it every single time. There's only one way you can stop it that I know of, and I've tried everything. And that is you flip the purpose of homework. Homework is no longer an assessment. Homework becomes preparation for an assessment. So you set a homework on Eedi, and kids can do whatever they want. They can just use Eedi as it's intended, using Eedi, the AI tutor, all our support, all our challenge questions. Or if they want, they can cheat, because we can't stop them. They can cheat as much as they like, just like they could ask their mate. They can ask ChatGPT, get whoever to do it, doesn't matter. But then in class, what happens is they do a no technology assessment. So the easiest way to do this is you just pick a couple of the questions from the previous homework, stick them on a piece of paper, and get kids to write down their answer and their reason for it. They don't know what questions you're going to pick, so it's very, very hard for them to memorize it, and you ask for them for their reasons. You do this under test conditions, you give the kids 5 minutes, something like that, and you hold them accountable for how they perform in that in-class no-tech assessment. And all of a sudden now, homework has a purpose, because if you do your homework properly, you're going to find this the easiest assessment in the world. If you've ChatGPT'd your homework or asked your mate or just clicked any old button, you're going to absolutely bomb out on that paper-based assessment. Now, the schools who've done this and got this working, it has revolutionized the participation rate in homework and how serious kids actually take homework. For me, it's the only solution to this problem that is just absolutely rife at the moment. But again, a lot of people think I'm just off my head talking about this. So what do you think? Where does that fit for you? Set on Eedi, repeat on paper in class. Where would you put that? How close have you done something like that? How important do you think that is? Or is this just a load of nonsense? Stick number 3 down if that's okay. Give you 10 seconds. Remember, don't discuss this yet if that's all right. Okay, final 2. So idea 4. If you're a nerd like me, you'll know that the single most replicated finding from the whole of cognitive science is the benefits of retrieval practice. So if you want your kids to remember something, best and only way to do it is to keep giving them opportunities to review that over longer periods of time, multiple opportunities to retrieve information. The problem is with retrieval practice, it's hard to schedule as just a human. And also, it's hard to make it bespoke to the needs of your individual kids, because every kid's going to forget things at different rates, going to need different retrieval practice at different times, and so on. So we try and make this as easy as possible at Eedi. So once your kids have answered, I think they only need to answer, yeah, there you go, 7 questions. So 2 weeks worth of quizzes. Once they've answered that, you qualify to be able to turn on retrieval practice. And that means that every week when your kids log on to Eedi, they get a 7-question retrieval quiz, a mixed topic retrieval quiz. And it's made up of questions from quizzes kids have answered throughout the year. And we use a smart algorithm. So we surface questions that kids have struggled with recently. We put those in the quiz. And also questions that kids have nailed, but they haven't revisited for ages. So we put those in the quiz as well to check that they haven't forgotten how to do it. Now, what this means is you don't have to do anything, by the way. Once you've turned this on, you're laughing, you just sit back. Now, this means if you're setting one topic-based quiz a week and one retrieval-based quiz a week, that's 7 plus 5, 12 questions. That's probably about half an hour to 40-minute homework if the kids do it properly. We find that's just about optimal for the kids. Topic-specific homework takes about between 15 and 20 minutes. Retrieval practice between 20, 25 minutes, something like that. Kids still get all the support, all the challenge, all that kind of thing, but it's just mixed topic. So if you're looking for a way to get effective bespoke retrieval practice, every kid gets a different retrieval practice quiz because it's based on each child's individual needs. And the more you do Eedi, the smarter Eedi becomes because it learns more about each kid and their needs. Then with one click, it's sorted. So where does retrieval practice, particularly bespoke retrieval practice, how much have you nailed that? How far to the right is that? How important do you think that is for kids learning? How far up are you going to put it? Stick number 4 down. And we've just got one more to go. We'll give you 10 seconds. Keep it to yourself for now, if that's okay. Okay, which brings us to the final idea number 5. One of my faves, this one. Plan for error, and plan for error specifically by playing Guess the Misconception. So the way this works is if you have a topic coming up on your scheme of work that quite a few of you are teaching within your department, so let's say, most of you teach year 7, and the first topic is place value, so most of you are going to be teaching place value over the next couple of weeks. You assign one person in your department to be essentially the host of this game, and you can switch it around from week after week, however you want to do it. And what the host has to do, it takes about 30 seconds. They hop onto Eedi, they find a quiz on that topic, and they do exactly what I did at the start. They find the quiz and they find a badly answered question on that quiz, looking at the global data, all the kids who've ever answered the question. So if you remember back at the start, I showed you that area of a triangle question. There was a stinker. That'd be a great candidate for this. And then what you do in departmental meetings, or some people just send this around on an email as a bit of a game, you pick that question, bang it up on the board, and you say to your department, as I'm going to say to you now, what do you reckon the most popular wrong answer is to that question? So I'll give you 30 seconds. If you've got a bit of paper or something like that, you might want to jot it on a piece of paper. What is the most popular wrong answer, do you think, to that question? 30 seconds, jot your answer on the piece of paper, then I'll go through it. If you've got your answer, tell the person next to you, why did you go for it? What brought about that choice? Okay, so I'm just going to build the drama up a little bit here. So this combo of picking a poorly answered question, getting everybody to think what they think the most common wrong answer is, and then getting them to discuss why they've chosen it, I think is a really effective thing to do in a departmental meeting because it focuses the conversation on pedagogy. Particularly if you've got teachers of different levels of experience, it's very hard for inexperienced teachers to anticipate the misconceptions that kids have got because they haven't gone through those years of classroom experience of kids making those mistakes. This is a way to fast track that. So teachers can say, well, I've seen my kids do this. I think they're going to do this. I remember when kids did this. So you get a really positive conversation. Then you get the big reveal of what I'm about to do now. And then you get to say, well, how can we stop our kids making that same mistake? So the most common wrong answer to this by a country mile is C. I'd have gone for A every day of the week here. I would have thought that kids would have mixed up hundredths and hundreds. But what they actually do is they go for C. So thinking then, okay, why do they go for C? And what are we going to do to ensure that our kids don't have that misconception when we teach this particular topic? And you can do this for any topic because we've got thousands of answers on thousands of questions, tens of thousands of answers on thousands of questions. So for any topic you've got coming up, you can do this. And it's a really positive, productive thing to do in a departmental meeting. So where does that fit for you? How much currently as a department or an individual colleague do you collectively plan for error? Do you think about misconceptions kids might have and discuss them and discuss ways to counteract them? And how important do you think that is? Can you stick number 5 on your grid? And this will be the last time we do this. So 10 seconds on that, please. Okay, so you should have 5 numbers on your quiz that represent those 5 ideas, pedagogical ideas. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you exactly 3 minutes with the person next to you, the people around you, to physically put your grids together and compare. Have you put the numbers in the same place? What feels like the most easily implementable one? What feels like the one that's exciting to you because you're not already doing it, but it's going to require some change? Have a discussion using your grids as frames of references. Your 3 minutes starts now. A few seconds left. Okay, perfect. Right, if I can just have your attention for the final bit, if that's okay. So there are 5 ideas there, which we've got evidence to suggest will just absolutely ramp up the effectiveness of how your kids understand mathematics. Remember, this isn't about like getting better at Eedi or anything. Who cares about that? Well, this is better. Yeah, it is better. What this is about is improving their understanding, and we're going to assess that on some completely independent tests, star assessments, really credible, really good tests of conceptual understanding as well as procedural fluency. And we've shown that these pedagogical moves drive up students' performance in those. The single most important out of all those 5, because it feeds into all the other ones, is setting 1 quiz a week. You get into that habit, get the kids into that habit of doing that quiz a week. That's going to be the thing that's going to add fuel to the fire of everything else. Because if you're setting 1 quiz a week on Eedi, you can then review the worst answered questions in class every single time. If you want to, you can do that in-class paper-based assessment. Setting 1 quiz a week on Eedi unlocks retrieval practice, which is going to mean your kids just don't forget things. And that's then going to allow you to do that planning for error because your kids are going to be attuned to using diagnostic questions, so they're going to get more out of them when you use them in class. Final thing from me before I shut up and hand over to Claire in case there's any questions, and then to the rest of you in case there's anything that I've missed. Just a reminder of those randomized controlled trials. All your kids are going to be involved, 7s, 8s, and 9s in the baseline, midline, and end line, but only 1 or 2 groups are going to be in the Eedi group. Your commitment there is to set 1 quiz a week. 1 or 2 of your groups are going to be in the non-Eedi group, and they're the business as usual group. And the only rule there is they're not allowed to use the Eedi platform for the duration of the academic year. Right, Claire, 1, have I missed anything? And 2, have any questions come through?
We don't have any questions.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't missed anything, but I just wanted to reiterate a couple of points. If
Go
that's all
for
right.
that. That means I have missed something. Claire's
No,
just being
no, it
very
doesn't. It's just
okay.
from the experience of the in-person visits as well.
Perfect. Go for it.
So in terms of toggling on retrieval, you do only need to have done 7 questions. But if you've only done 2 quizzes, so 10 questions, you will end up with the kids getting pretty much the same retrieval each. So a lot of schools that I've been into have liked the idea of the first 2 weeks setting 2 topic quizzes each. So they do 10 questions each week, toggle it on, ready for week 3, where they move to 1 topic and 1 retrieval, because then they'll have done 20 each and they get that more bespoke retrieval then. So I think that's quite good. And I've been in some schools that have had really disadvantaged kids. So, for example, 70% pupil premium, and they've had 98% completion of Sparks prior to doing this. And their routine was that the whole school is set maths homework on the same day, regardless of whether they're taught on that day. So even if they don't have a lesson, so for example, the whole school was set maths homework on a Wednesday, it was due in on a Tuesday. And the reason it was due in on a Tuesday is because half the maths department had PPA period 5, and the last 10 minutes of period 5, they went and collected all the kids that hadn't done the maths homework for the week and took them to a computer room and they did it. And then the next lesson after that, so Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it was, they did the reviews in class of all that kind of stuff. But they had excellent completion, which over the weeks obviously dropped of the amount of kids they needed to pick up because the kids knew what was going to happen. So a routine like that is crucial for getting everything you described there working.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Claire. Yeah, we've been visiting schools over the last couple of months, all of us. So all of this, all of what Claire said there and what I've shared here, this comes from real schools and real classrooms. This isn't just us like making up things. This is what we've learned about what it takes to make this work, which is going to benefit you and your kids. So that brings us to the formal end. We'll get Harriet to send the video on. Of this, so you've got it. We'll be your leads as well, contacts going forward. We'll try and come out to visit your schools if we can at some point in the next academic year, just to offer support. But don't feel afraid to get in touch if you've anything to share, any suggestions or any advice that you need or anything. And I'll hang around for a few minutes now till everybody disappears, just to make sure anybody just doesn't want to stick around for a chat or ask any questions or anything like that. But we'll bring it to a formal end there. And let me just say thank you very much once again for giving up your time at what's a very, very busy time of the year. Right, thank you very much. I won't log off until everybody's gone, but enjoy the rest of your evening and have a nice summer holiday when it arrives. 4,000 steps, Claire, there during that talk.
It's definitely you wanted a lower speed when you're changing your screen share.
Flipping heart was going. Oh God, I was going to have a stroke. Yeah, I've got to get the optimal. Yeah, presentations. I think I need to drop it a little bit when Zoom's involved. Probably drop it right down to
I
0.
think if you'd just been on the PowerPoint, I think you'd have been fine.
Perfect.
It was when you were
Perfect.
just doing PowerPoint, it was good. It was having to change that.
It's like a joke. I feel people think I'm an idiot. Like I've never seen anything as bad as you click share. There's no Chrome tab or anything. I don't
Yeah,
even know what is going on with this. But
great.
anyway, sorted. Right. I think we've got one attendee there, Chris. So I'll just check he doesn't need anything, and then we'll wrap things up there.
There was 2 versions of Chris on the call the whole way through. So I
Oh,
don't know
right.
if
So
he's
probably,
joined maybe on phone
yeah,
and computer or
it's
something like
probably
that.
that. Right. Let's pull the plug there. Perfect. Claire, that was brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll see
Well,
you. Yeah.
well done.
See you
See you
later.
later.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.